Snow drifted across the bright streets of the colony, moving like soft white dust under the glowing Christmas lights. Rowan stood outside the small cafe, brushing frost from his coat. The warm air inside fogged the windows, and soft music played from hidden speakers. He checked the time again, then looked at the small chair across from him. It was empty. He had been waiting for almost an hour. Rowan was a simple man with simple habits. He worked as a carpenter in the colony repair district, building tables, fixing broken doors, and helping anyone who asked. His hands were rough, but his heart was patient. His friend had arranged this blind date for him, telling him it would be interesting, different, and exactly what you need. Rowan didn't know what that meant, but he had agreed anyway. The cafe smelled like warm cocoa and sweet bread. Humans, aliens, and small robotic helpers moved around quietly. People glanced at Rowan every now and then, wondering why someone would wait this long on Christmas Eve. But Rowan didn't mind. Waiting was normal for him. Wood, tools, and slow projects had taught him patience. He sat down again and watched the snow fall outside the window. He wondered what kind of person his date might be. His friend had refused to say anything except, "Just trust me. Be yourself. And don't leave early." Rowan smiled a little. Leaving early wasn't something he did. Minutes passed, then more. People came in with laughter and gifts, families hugged, and the cafe grew warm and bright. But his table stayed empty. The waiter approached him quietly. "Sir, are you still expecting someone?" "Yes," Rowan said with a calm smile. "I'm waiting." The waiter nodded politely and left. Rowan didn't feel embarrassed. He felt hopeful. Someone was supposed to come. And he believed she would. Outside, the wind grew colder. Snow piled up on the railings. Rowan wrapped his scarf tighter. Maybe something happened. Maybe she got lost. Maybe she changed her mind. But still he didn't leave. He remembered something his grandmother once told him. If you wait for someone with a good heart, good things will follow. He had always believed that. So he stayed. Even when the cafe became quieter. Even when most people left to celebrate with their families. Time kept moving. Rowan ordered a warm drink and cupped it in his hands. The heat helped, but the silence around him felt heavy. He looked at the door again. No one came in. He wondered if he should finally stand up and go home. But deep inside, something told him just a little longer. So he stayed. Far across the colony, through layers of snow and bright walkways, another figure rushed through the cold. Her large wings were wrapped tightly around her thin body. Her scales were dull from long work hours, and her claws clicked quickly on the pavement. She was tall, tired, and clearly in a hurry. Soraya, the dragon mother, kept checking the time on the small screen tied around her wrist. She whispered to herself, breathing cold air in short bursts. She was late, very late. Her work shift had ended only minutes earlier after a surprise inspection. She had run home quickly to check on her young hatchling, Koro, making sure he was warm and safe. She had fed him and put him to sleep. Only then could she leave for the date. She felt nervous and guilty. No one wanted a late date, especially not someone waiting on Christmas Eve. But she still rushed. She had not been on a date in years. Raising a hatchling alone took all her time and strength. But a small part of her heart wanted to try again. Wanted a chance to feel seen. Wanted a moment of kindness. Snow stuck to her scales as she hurried toward the cafe. She worried she would find an empty chair and an empty room. Her wings shook slightly from fear. She wondered if she should turn back before she embarrassed herself. But she pushed forward anyway. Back at the cafe, Rowan lifted his head as the doorbell chimed. A few people turned and the warm air shifted. A large shadow appeared in the doorway. The waiter froze. The customers whispered. A dragon stood at the entrance, tall, nervous, wings folded tight, scales shimmering softly under the lights. Soraya stepped inside slowly, feeling 100 eyes on her. Dragons did not come to human cafes. Dragons did not go on blind dates. And dragons almost never walked alone on Christmas Eve. She scanned the room, hoping, just hoping, that someone had waited. Her eyes met Rowan's. Rowan blinked, surprised but not scared. He stood up slowly, gently, like he would stand in front of a sleeping kitten. His movements were calm, respectful. He didn't step back. He didn't stare with fear. He simply gave a small, warm smile. "Are you Soraya?" he asked softly. Soraya froze. "Weiss," she said, her voice quiet and strained. "I'm so sorry I am late. I had to take care of my hatchling first. I did not mean to make you wait." Rowan shook his head. "It's fine. I don't mind waiting." He pulled out the chair across from him. "I'm Rowan. I'm glad you're here." No one had ever spoken to her like that, not here, not among humans. She stepped forward slowly and sat down, her wings trembling from cold and nerves. The cafe grew silent in surprise. But Rowan didn't notice. He was too busy smiling. Soraya looked at him and felt something she hadn't felt in years: relief. "You waited?" she asked quietly. "Of course," Rowan said. "You came. That's what matters." Something warm spread through her tired chest. For the first time this winter she felt welcome. Outside, snow continued to fall. Inside, a human carpenter and a dragon mother sat together at a small table on Christmas Eve. It was unusual. It was unexpected. But it felt right. And for both of them, a new story had just begun. The snow fell in slow, soft flakes as Rowan waited outside the small cafe. He stamped his boots lightly on the ground, trying to keep them warm. He checked the time again and again, even though he already knew he had been waiting for almost an hour. He told himself it was fine. It was Christmas Eve. People were busy. Maybe she had a reason. Maybe she would still come. Rowan was a simple carpenter. He lived a quiet life, fixing doors, carving small toys, and repairing old wooden furniture. His friends had convinced him to try a blind date because they said he spent too much time alone. He finally agreed, but only because they told him the woman he would meet was kind and gentle, even if she had a complicated life. He had no problem with that. Everyone carried their own weight. But as the minutes passed, he started to wonder if she had changed her mind. Maybe she saw his picture and decided he was not good enough. Maybe she was just being polite and never planned to come. He pushed those thoughts away. He did not want to think like that. Not tonight. He stood under a street lamp that made the snow glow. He held a small wooden carving in his hand, a gift he made for the blind date, a tiny star with smooth edges. He kept turning it between his fingers, hoping, waiting, believing. Cars passed by, lights reflecting on the wet road. Families hurried past him, laughing, carrying gifts, excited for warm homes and celebrations. Rowan smiled at them because he liked seeing people happy, even if he was standing alone in the cold. After a while he felt the first hint of doubt. Maybe he should go home. Maybe this was just another moment life gave him to test his patience. But something inside him whispered that he should wait a little longer. It was a gentle voice, like someone telling him the story had not started yet. Just then a soft rumble reached his ears. It did not sound like a car or a hover sleigh. It was deeper, almost like the ground humming. Rowan turned his head, curious. The rumble grew louder, then suddenly stopped. Silence. Then a warm breath touched the cold air behind him. Rowan turned slowly and his eyes widened. A dragon stood there. Not a giant one, not a dangerous one, but a tall, elegant dragon with soft silver scales that shimmered in the snowlight. Her wings were folded close, and her long tail dragged weakly behind her as if she was tired. She looked nervous, her bright eyes shifting from side to side. She wore a thick scarf wrapped around her neck in a clumsy but charming way. Rowan blinked once. Then twice. His heart jumped. She looked right at him. "Are you Rowan?" Her voice was soft but tired, as if she had rushed a long way. He nodded, unable to find words. She let out a shaky breath. "I am late. I'm so sorry. I had trouble with the babysitter and then I missed the shuttle and She stopped talking and lowered her head. "I understand if you are angry." Rowan stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head gently. "I'm not angry," he said. "I'm just glad you're here." Her silver eyes widened with clear surprise. Snow drifted around them, catching the warm light of the cafe behind them. The dragon seemed unsure of what to do next. She looked exhausted, worried, and a little embarrassed. But Rowan only saw someone who tried her best to arrive, even if life made it hard. He held out the small wooden star with a shy smile. "This is for you. I made it." She looked at the carving carefully, then lifted it with delicate claws as if it were precious crystal. Her face softened into a warm smile. "That is beautiful," she whispered. "Thank you." Rowan felt warmth rise in his chest. For the first time tonight he felt hope. He stepped aside and held the cafe door open. "Shall we go in? It's warm inside." She nodded slowly, still shy but grateful. As she walked past him, Rowan noticed how carefully she moved, like she did not want to take up too much space. She carried a quiet sadness with her, but also a gentle strength. Rowan followed her inside, and for the first time he felt like this Christmas Eve might not be lonely after all. He had waited. And she had come. The night was just beginning. The cafe smelled warm and sweet, filled with the soft hum of humans, aliens, and the occasional robotic server moving quietly between tables. Rowan guided Soraya to a small corner table, the one with the best view of the softly falling snow outside. He pulled out the chair and motioned for her to sit. Soraya lowered herself carefully, folding her wings close to her body. She felt nervous, her scales still cool from the winter air. Her eyes flicked around the cafe, taking in the warm lights, the cozy tables and the laughter of the customers. She had never been in a place like this before. Humans rarely expected a dragon to dine among them without fear. Rowan sat across from her and smiled softly. "I'm glad you made it," he said, his voice calm and gentle. "Even if it was late." Soraya looked down at the small wooden star in her claws, the one he had given her at the door. "I almost didn't come," she admitted quietly. "I was afraid that you wouldn't want to wait for me. That everyone would think I'm different. That I might ruin everything." Rowan shook his head. "I waited because I wanted to. I thought it was worth it to meet you." His eyes were steady and his calm voice made her chest relax. For the first time in a long while she felt safe. They ordered drinks, warm spiced cocoa for her and hot coffee for him. The waiter raised an eyebrow but said nothing, as if this scene of human and dragon meeting on Christmas Eve was normal in some quiet way. Soraya's tail curled under her chair nervously, but she managed a small smile. They began to talk. At first the conversation was small, careful. Rowan asked about her work, and Soraya spoke about her job in the colony's supply district, her long hours, and the challenge of caring for her young hatchling, Koro. Her voice trembled slightly as she explained how she had to be both parent and protector alone. Rowan listened quietly, nodding, never interrupting, never judging. "I can't imagine what that's like," Rowan said softly. "Raising a hatchling alone must take so much energy and courage." Soraya looked at him, surprised. You think it's courageous?" "I do," Rowan replied. "Anyone who protects someone else, even when it's hard, deserves respect. That's bravery to me." Her heart softened. She had expected skepticism, maybe even fear. Instead, this human saw her strength and valued it. As the cafe emptied and the snow outside thickened, Rowan began to talk about his work as a carpenter. He explained how he fixed doors, built tables, and sometimes carved small toys for children. He told her how he liked to spend time slowly shaping wood, listening to the grain and imagining the final product. Soraya listened with fascination. "You make things with patience," she said. "That is rare. Most people rush. Most people don't notice the details." Rowan shrugged lightly. "Patience is important. Especially when you care about what you're making, or who you're making it for." He gave a small smile. Soraya's tail flicked slightly, a sign she was considering his words. She had lived a life where most people judged her for her size, her wings, or her scales. Here was a human who didn't flinch, didn't laugh, didn't judge. He only listened. I want to show you something," Soraya said after a moment. "But it is small and shy." She led him carefully outside to a small corridor behind her home. There, curled up in a soft blanket on a low platform, was Koro, her hatchling. The tiny dragon peered at Rowan with wide, curious eyes. The scales glimmered faintly under the lantern light, and the small claws tapped nervously. Rowan knelt slowly, keeping his hands open. "Hello, Koro," he said softly. "I'm Rowan. It's nice to meet you." The hatchling tilted his head, sniffing the air carefully. Soraya watched him closely, unsure if he would trust this stranger. But Rowan stayed calm, patient, and gentle. After a few long seconds, Koro inched forward, sniffing Rowan's hand. Rowan held still, smiling softly. "See," he whispered. "It's okay. I don't want to hurt you." Koro finally touched Rowan's palm with a tiny claw, then stepped back, testing the boundaries. Rowan laughed quietly. "You're brave," he said. "Just like your mother." Soraya's heart swelled. She had never expected a human to connect so easily with her hatchling. She realized that patience, kindness, and a calm presence could bridge the gap between species, even one as wild as hers. They returned inside, Koro following cautiously but not retreating. Rowan helped adjust the small heater near the hatchling, fixing a tiny broken knob with simple tools he carried in his bag. Soraya watched in surprise. He was careful, precise, and attentive, ensuring that Koro would stay warm without startling him. You really know what you're doing," she said. "I didn't expect a human to care so much." Rowan shrugged lightly. "I like helping. I like fixing things. And I like making sure little ones are safe." A warm silence settled between them. Snow fell outside, the light from the lanterns reflecting on the frost-covered windows. Rowan and Soraya sipped their drinks slowly, occasionally glancing at Koro, who now curled up near the heater, feeling safe and curious. They talked quietly about their worlds, her life as a dragon mother in a human colony, his life as a carpenter helping people every day. Differences mattered less than understanding. They shared stories of struggle, small victories, and moments of joy. The more they spoke, the more they realized how much patience, courage, and care they both shared. Hours passed. Outside, the colony lights reflected on the snow, casting a golden glow inside the small home. Rowan looked at Soraya and smiled. "You know," he said softly, "I think we understand each other better than most. Even if we're very different." Soraya's wings relaxed slightly. "Yes," she said. "I think you are kind. And patient. I feel safe talking to you." Rowan nodded. "And I feel lucky to meet you and Koro. Tonight, this feels important." The hatchling let out a small yawn and curled closer to Soraya. The three of them sat quietly, sipping drinks, warmed by the soft lights, the calm, and the new bond forming between human and dragon. Outside, the snow continued to fall, soft and endless, covering the colony in a blanket of peace. For the first time in a long while, both Soraya and Rowan felt that even on a cold, late Christmas Eve, warmth could be found, not just in cocoa or blankets but in understanding, patience, and the beginning of a connection that might change everything. The snow outside fell harder now, covering the colony in a soft white blanket. Inside Soraya's small home, the warm lights flickered gently as she and Rowan sat near the heater, sipping cocoa and talking quietly. Koro, her hatchling, curled up on a soft blanket, occasionally peeking at Rowan with curious eyes. Suddenly the lights dimmed. A faint hum of electricity dropped, then silence. Rowan frowned. "Power's out," he said softly. Outside, the wind howled and snow rattled against the windows. Soraya's chest tightened. She ran quickly to the corner where Koro lay. "Oh no. The heater, he'll be cold," she whispered, panic rising. The hatchling stirred, blinking sleepily, unaware of the danger. Rowan stood and moved toward the wall, examining the small breaker panel. "It's a local outage," he said calmly. "Don't worry. We can fix this temporarily until the system restores." Soraya watched him, awe and nervousness in her eyes. She had faced danger before, but she had never seen a human react so calmly in an emergency. His hands moved with precision, connecting wires, adjusting panels, and testing circuits. Every movement was careful, steady, and efficient. "Can I help?" she asked, a little hesitantly. Rowan shook his head. "No. You stay with Koro. I've got this. Trust me." She did as he said, holding her hatchling close while watching him work. Sparks flew softly from a wire, but Rowan did not panic. He kept talking in a calm voice, explaining what he was doing. "I'm going to build a temporary link to the heater. It will keep Koro warm until the main system returns." Soraya felt a mix of fear and admiration. Here was a human, small in size compared to her, yet brave and resourceful. He faced the storm, the darkness, and the frozen winter with confidence. She had never expected to see such courage. The heater clicked softly as Rowan finished connecting the temporary power line. Warm air began flowing again. Koro stirred and snuggled closer to Soraya, no longer shivering. She exhaled in relief, her wings relaxing slightly. "You did it," she whispered, her voice full of awe. Rowan smiled but stayed focused. "We did it," he corrected gently. "We worked together. Koro's safe now." The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, but inside, warmth returned. Soraya realized how calm Rowan made everything feel. His presence was steady, reliable, and kind. They settled back near the heater, and for a while, silence filled the room, comforting and safe. Then Rowan spoke softly. "You know, most people would panic in a situation like this. You didn't. You stayed calm for Koro." Soraya shook her head. "I panicked. But watching you helped me breathe." She looked at him, a small smile forming. "You're brave. Not just with tools but in life. You care." Rowan shrugged lightly. "I try. Caring is important. Especially for someone else. Even someone very different from you." Soraya's eyes softened. She had spent years alone, raising Koro, protecting him, feeling the weight of responsibility without help. Yet this human, this stranger, had come into her life and showed her that even in fear, help could arrive. As the night deepened, the storm outside grew fiercer. Snow drifted past the windows, and distant howls of the wind echoed through the streets of the colony. Rowan and Soraya stayed close to the heater, sharing quiet conversation. Rowan told stories about his work as a carpenter, about fixing broken doors in the colony, about carving little toys for children he had never met. Soraya shared stories about raising Koro, about the small victories and struggles of being a single mother in a human city. Slowly, the walls between their worlds began to disappear. She realized that courage was not just about fighting monsters or surviving storms, it was about patience, kindness, and trusting others. Rowan had shown her all of that in the simplest, most human ways. Koro yawned and curled closer to his mother. Rowan reached out gently and brushed a small hand against the hatchling's soft scales. "He's brave like you," he whispered. Soraya's chest warmed. "Thank you for being here. For staying." Rowan smiled softly. "I didn't want to leave. You needed someone tonight." "I think we all needed someone." Outside, the storm raged, but inside, the small home glowed with light and warmth. For the first time in a long while, Soraya felt hope. She saw that even in the darkest nights, courage could shine, and help could come from the most unexpected places. Hours passed. The snow slowed then stopped. Outside, the colony streets were quiet and white, covered in a thick layer of winter. The power returned slowly, lights flickering back on in distant buildings. But inside, the bond formed during the blackout remained stronger than any lights. Rowan stood and stretched. "We should get some rest soon," he said softly. "It's been a long night." Soraya nodded. "Yes, but I want to thank you. For everything. For Koro, for me." She looked at him, her eyes shining in the warm light. "You didn't just fix a heater tonight. You showed me courage and kindness." Rowan shrugged with a small smile. "It was nothing. Just being human." Soraya chuckled softly, a sound she hadn't made in years. "No, it was more than that. It was brave and gentle and comforting. You are special." The hatchling stirred and snuggled closer to her. Rowan knelt slightly, watching the small family. For a moment they were silent together, 3 lives connected by warmth, patience, and trust. Outside, the stars peeked through the storm clouds. The colony lights twinkled faintly on the snow. Inside, a dragon mother, her hatchling, and a human carpenter sat together, safe and calm. They had faced fear and cold, darkness and uncertainty, and they had survived not just with skill, but with trust, courage, and care for one another. The night continued quietly. Rowan helped tuck a blanket around Koro, and Soraya adjusted the heater for extra warmth. They shared quiet words, small smiles, and gentle gestures. By the time sleep came, the storm had passed. Outside, the colony was peaceful and white. Inside, the small home glowed with warmth, hope, and a bond stronger than the winter night. For Soraya, Rowan, and Koro, the night had proven something important. Courage was not just for battles or storms. It was for staying calm, helping others, and trusting that kindness could arrive even when the world seemed dark. And as they drifted to sleep, each felt the quiet comfort that comes from knowing someone had their back, that even on the coldest Christmas Eve, courage, patience, and care could light the way. The morning light broke softly over the snowy colony. Outside, the streets were quiet, covered in a thick blanket of fresh snow. The air smelled crisp and clean, and faint sunlight reflected off the frost on the windows. Inside Soraya's small home, warmth spread from the heater, and a sense of calm filled the room. Soraya stirred first, her silver scales catching the early light. She stretched slowly, glancing at Koro, her hatchling, who was still curled up under a soft blanket. The small dragon yawned and blinked at the morning sun filtering through the window. Soraya smiled softly, reaching out to stroke Koro's head gently. Rowan had already been awake for a while. He had quietly prepared a small breakfast, using the little supplies Soraya had. Bread, a few sweet fruits, and warm cocoa for them all. The aroma filled the room and Koro sniffed eagerly, stretching his tiny wings. "Good morning," Rowan said softly, smiling at Soraya. "I hope you slept well." Soraya blinked and nodded. "I did, thanks to you. And Koro too. He slept safely because of your help last night." Rowan shrugged, brushing a small amount of flour from his hands. "It was nothing. I just wanted to make sure you were both safe and warm." The hatchling shuffled closer to Rowan, peeking curiously at the small dishes. Rowan laughed softly. "Looks like someone is hungry." He gently held out a piece of bread. Koro sniffed it carefully, then took it in a small claw. Soraya watched, her heart warming at the sight of the two of them together. They sat together, sharing breakfast in the quiet light of the new morning. Rowan asked about Koro's favorite foods, and Soraya explained how she had to prepare each meal carefully. Rowan listened, asking questions and laughing softly at Koro's playful movements. The hatchling climbed lightly onto Soraya's lap and then back onto the blanket, exploring with tiny, curious steps. After breakfast, Soraya looked at Rowan with a small smile. "I didn't expect this," she said quietly. "To wake up and feel peace. To have someone here helping, caring. It feels new." Rowan smiled back. It's Christmas morning. And sometimes good things start quietly in ways we don't expect. Soraya thought about the previous night, the storm, the darkness, the fear she felt. She remembered how Rowan had calmly fixed the heater, kept her calm, and even found ways to make her hatchling comfortable. She realized that kindness and courage were not always about grand gestures. Sometimes they were about being present, patient, and gentle when it mattered most. The morning passed slowly. Rowan helped Soraya tidy the small home, fixing a loose panel in the floor and repairing a small broken shelf. Koro watched closely, occasionally trying to help by nudging small objects with his tiny claws. Rowan laughed, letting the hatchling feel useful without causing any harm. Soraya's heart lifted as she watched the two of them work together, learning from each other and forming a new kind of bond. After tidying, they decided to go outside for a short walk. The snow was soft under their feet, and the sunlight reflected off the crystalline frost, making the colony sparkle like a magical place. Koro hopped along beside them, his tiny claws crunching in the snow. Soraya kept one wing lightly wrapped around him, protective yet relaxed. Rowan walked beside them, keeping pace, occasionally pointing out the patterns of frost on the windows or the tracks animals left in the snow. "Look," he said softly, kneeling to trace a set of footprints. "Life always leaves a mark. Sometimes small, sometimes big. But it's always there if you pay attention." Soraya nodded, thinking about the night before and the kindness he had shown. She realized that courage, patience, and care left marks too, not just on the world but on hearts. Rowan had left a mark on hers. As they walked back home, Soraya stopped for a moment. "Rowan," she said quietly, I want to ask you something." Rowan looked at her curiously. "Yes. Would you like to spend Christmas morning with us? With Koro and me? It is simple, but I think it would be nice." Her voice trembled slightly, unsure of his answer. Rowan's eyes lit up, and a warm smile spread across his face. "I'd be honored," he said softly. "I can't think of a better way to spend Christmas morning." Soraya's chest warmed. She had not expected such a response. The small house, the hatchling, and the human carpenter had all come together in a quiet, perfect moment. They spent the rest of the morning together. Rowan helped prepare a simple meal with the small supplies Soraya had. They laughed as Koro tried to steal small bites, and they shared stories of their lives, dreams, and hopes. The warmth of the room matched the warmth of their hearts. Later, Rowan and Soraya sat by the window, watching the snow slowly melt in the morning sun. Koro slept beside them, tired from exploring and playing. Soraya reached out, touching Rowan's hand gently. I didn't expect this," she said. "To meet a human, and feel peace, safety, and kindness all at once." Rowan looked at her and smiled. "Neither did I," he admitted. "But I'm glad I waited. You were worth it." Soraya's eyes softened, and for the first time in years she felt that loneliness had lifted. The hatchling stirred slightly, sensing the calm and joy around him. The three of them sat together, a small family formed unexpectedly on Christmas morning. Word of their unusual pairing spread quietly through the colony. Neighbors and friends noticed the dragon and the human together, smiling at the peaceful scene. Some whispered about the magic of Christmas, others about the kindness and courage of Rowan. But Soraya did not care about what others thought. She only knew that here in this small home, they had found something rare: trust, connection, and hope. As the day continued, the snow outside glistened, the colony bustling gently with life, and the warmth inside the little home remained steady. Rowan and Soraya exchanged small smiles and soft words, realizing that this morning marked a new beginning. The struggles of the past, the loneliness, and the fear had not disappeared entirely, but they no longer felt alone. Koro yawned and curled up again, trusting the human who had shown patience and bravery. Soraya held her hatchling close, feeling grateful and relieved. Rowan looked at both of them, feeling the quiet joy that came from helping and caring for others. This Christmas morning, three lives connected by chance, patience, and courage had found a new start. Rowan, Soraya, and Koro shared warmth, laughter, and hope. A reminder that even on the coldest nights, kindness, courage, and care could create a bright, lasting light. And in that small home, snow falling gently outside, the three of them knew one thing for certain. Sometimes waiting, helping, and being present could change everything. Christmas morning had arrived, and with it, a new family, a new hope, and a new beginning for them all.